Hăīre, φίλε, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 6, verses 5 through 7. But first, last time in John chapter 6, only one page to go through. Here is our rubric. Let's go ahead and get started. Eperas tous ophthalmus ho Jesus kai theas amenos hoti polus oklos erketai pros auton lege pros Philippon pothen agora somen artus china phagosin utoi tuto de elegen peradzon auton autos gar eide ti emelen poiein apekrithe autoi ho Philippos diakosion denarion artoi uk arkusin autois hina hekastos brakulti labei. That's as far as we're going to make it today. Taking a look at our very first word, note that we have the alpha sigma ending off of the aorist stem, but that the epsilon has not changed into an epsilon iota, as we would expect for this verb. This is from Pyro. The iota dropped out when it went to aorist, so then this alpha sigma tells us that this is going to be a nominative singular masculine aorist active participle, and it means to lift up. Therefore, lift up what? Well, this direct object we see here with the omicron upsilon sigma, accusative, plural, masculine, the eyes, and then we have our subject in Jesus, which we don't need to parse. Kai, and then another participle, you can tell because of the mu epsilon nu. This comes from the aomai, which is a deponent. The sigma tells us that we have the aorist stem here, men, passive, deponent, participle, but with a deponent verb already, then it just becomes active in meaning, deponent, passive in form. Omicron sigma is going to be nominative, just like this participle to match Jesus. And then this verb means to look at, to gaze upon, and in this case he's going to be gazing upon a hoti clause, that polus oklos omicron sigma for the nominative singular masculine subject, and then polus with upsilon sigma is just modifying that great crowd. Erketai epsilon tau alpha iota. We've seen this form before, so we don't need to parse it. Prepositional phrase with the verb, so this is a verb of motion, so it's going to be taking pros plus the accusative. Singular masculine because of this new right here. Closes because this is a new verb. So comes to him. Legei, epsilon iota. This is off the present stem, so third person singular, present, active, indicative. And I suppose I didn't really need to parse that since this is so very common. That should be just something brushed by. But new prepositional phrase. Interesting that it's the same prepositional phrase as erketai, but in this case it's speaking to rather than coming to. But pros, same as before. Philippon. Note that we have the two words here, phil and hippon. So this is, his name means horse lover. Then we get into what Jesus says to Philip, and we have this adverb showing location. Note that there's the thin off of po. This usually shows us, this is what is usually used to indicate the locative case for at least nouns and adjectives in Greek. So from whence, agora somen. Note we have the omega there with men ending, so that's going to be a first person plural. And this is from agorazo with the zeta, which has been replaced with a sigma, which then tells us that this is a aorist stem. It is active in form, and as I said, subjunctive, which makes sense with pothen, since it's a question, it's a hypothetical. So where may we agora, where may we buy? Artus, omicron upsilon sigma for accusative, plural, masculine, bread, loaves of bread is what we could also say for that. Hina, purpose clause, which then we see with another omega, another subjunctive. So this is from phagomai, which should be deponent, but we've got omega sigma iota nu, so it's got a active ending. That's curious. But anyway, it is the third person plural, sigma iota nu, or, sorry, correction. This is from estio, my error. Estio being the present, and then phagomai is the future. So it's still mai sai tai, methisthe, ntai is what we should have. So it should be phagontai. Here's part of my problem. You can't have a future subjunctive, and this is the future stem of the verb. So then this omega is actually got to be a contraction, but I'm not sure what it's contraction of, unless I have just horribly misidentified it. So I'm going to go check that out, see where I've been wrong in my notes, and I'll get right back to you. So it turns out that my error is in forgetting that the aorist also takes phi alpha gamma as the stem. So what this actually is the aorist stem, not the future stem, which makes a lot more sense with the hina. So aorist, and this is, I think this is still going to be a subjunctive. So that they might eat. They, in hutoi, referring to the crowd. And I'm not going to draw a line there. And then we get into 6. Note that we have the punctuation here from the editors telling us that this is a question. Tuto, so this, accusative, singular, neuter being the statement. Elegen, with epsilon present stem, epsilon nu, third person, singular, imperfect tense, because of the augmenting vowel there. Active and indicative. This thing he was saying, perazon, this is a, what is this? This is a verb because of the zeta omega nu. This is perazo, and it means to test. So then with omega nu, that's going to be the participle, nominative, singular, masculine, referring to Jesus. He was saying this, testing out on him. Omicron nu is the direct object. Moving on to the next clause then, for autos, referring back to Jesus, eide from oida, but note that we have the eta sub-iota here, which then tells us that it's not the normal oida form, which is a perfect form, but instead we have with epsilon iota, the third person, singular, pluperfect tense, active, and indicative. For he had known, t with accusative barely visible, singular, neuter, since there is no sigma there. What enelen, another augmenting vowel, another epsilon nu, it's the same form as elegans, so I'm just going to pull that down for another imperfect. Well, he was going, and then poiein, epsilon iota nu of the present active infinitive. And then note that with this present infinitive and the other present participle there, these are just contemporaneous with the main verb. So he was asking, he was testing, he was intending, he was doing. For he knew what he was going to do. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. And then we get into the response, apokrithe, we've seen this enough times. And then autoi, dative, singular, masculine due to the sub-iota there. This time referring to Jesus, a change of subject with the article telling us the change of subject with Philippos, nominative, singular, masculine. Answered him, diakosion, denarion, so neither of those are in the correct form with omega nu, but here we have omicron iota for the nominative, plural, masculine subject, and then our verb here with arkusin. Note that we have the circumflex, which then means there is a contraction, and that's just from arkeo. So then third plural to go with artoi, the subject, present, active, indicative. And this means to have enough, or to be enough. So the loaves are not enough. And then what's then going on with these omega nus, which are genitive plural? No, participle, genitive. Plural, and denarion is neuter. So when you have a genitive like this with artoi, and you've just used, where did you go? Agorazo, and then you have a word that means to have enough to be sufficient, well then that's going to be the genitive of price or value. So then we would translate this, loaves, there is not enough. Loaves worth denarius, 200 denarius. Dia, or di, really, and then acus is 100, so twice 100. And then tois, or autois with the dative, it's going to be dative, plural, masculine, common, really. For them, dative of advantage. Hina, hekastos, this word means each. Omicron sigma for the nominative, don't really need to do that. And then braku is going to be the adjective modifying a T, so accusative, singular, neuter, going to T. And then labei with that eta sub iota is a subjunctive. This is from lambano, so we have the aorist stem, since there is no mu there, let alone the alpha nu after. Lambano, yeah. So third person, singular, aorist, active, subjunctive, which is not spelled that way. There we go. In the hina clause. So that each of them might have a little of some, or some little. There we have that. Let's go ahead and take a look at it in its own context. Therefore, having lifted up the eyes, and Jesus having looked, that great crowd is coming to him. He says to Philip, whence might we buy loaves so that these might eat? And this he was asking, testing him, for he had known what he was intending to do. Philip answered him, loaves worth 200 denarius are not enough for them to eat, that each might have some little to eat. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. And happy Independence Day. Farewell.